Well, howdy doody patootie. Sorry I called you patootie. Unless, you like that, and then get off. Hi. Once again, I am voicing over a video, and I don't have any notes for what I want to talk about. I know that that's really irresponsible, because then I can just talk about anything, and my brain can just take us all to different planets, and isn't that just fun? So, another ad-libbed one. I really do need to sit down and plan out what I'm going to say so I don't say something stupid, but stupid is kind of my brand at this point, so changing that just kind of feels wrong. So stupid it is. I woke up this morning at 3 a.m. I know, gross. I woke up at 3 a.m., kind of just like stayed in bed and twiddled with Instagram and Duolingo until like 3:30, and finally got up and ate breakfast and went for a walk, then came back and then did Tai Bo and some Pilates and then took a shower, and now I'm talking into the camera, waiting till it's like 9. It's 8:30 now, so I'm gonna be talking until 9. Hopefully can find something to talk about until then. And I'm gonna get my mom up, and then we'll probably go for a walk around 9:30 to like 10 or 10:30, and then I will pack up my junk and I will go to my studio and I will cry, and then that is going to be the rest of today, and then we'll just repeat and rinse tomorrow. But actually, no, I'll cry a little bit, I'll be honest. There'll be some tears, but there won't be as many tears as usual. I'm working on a background. I've kind of ignored background art, and I recently fell down a Studio Ghibli hole, which I do about every other week, and it kind of hit me like, wow, I don't really do a lot of background art. I should do more of that, I think. So I'm working on a background. I'm not very good at it. I've been debating whether or not I want to videotape it. Today I'm going to videotape some of it, but I really don't know what I'm doing, and so it's kind of nerve-wracking to videotape some of it. It'll be the video that comes out next week. You'll see what I'm kind of doing, and hopefully by next week I know what I'm doing. Anyway, so yeah. And I'm nervous about videotaping, and not just because I don't know what I'm doing, but because I don't know where to put the camera. There's not really a good place to put it that's out of the way, and I don't know if I should like put it up on the desk itself, or if I should like, I don't know. I'll figure it out. I don't know, but it's kind of a conundrum. Oh man, my chill plate on my computer was on. I bet you could hear that whirring the whole time. Sorry about that. I will not fix that in post. That will just be inside of the video now too. Also, it's because it's 8:30. The high schools are going to start soon, so you're probably going to hear a lot of cars, a lot of kids, a lot of buses go by. I'm not closing my window though, because it feels nice. So you're going to have to ignore it, just like I have to ignore it. See, isn't it great living in my shoes? Just get to experience everything. Speaking of school, I was thinking recently, and by recently I mean this walk I took this morning at like 5 a.m. I was thinking about my geometry class for some reason. I don't know why I was thinking about it. I was just thinking about the geometry class that I took when I was a sophomore in high school, and just how weird that class actually was. So it's pretty weird. At the time, it was, just like normal high school shit, but now it's like, oh, it was really weird. For example, my geometry teacher always brought his dog to school, and the geometry and math classes were in this annexed building away from all the other buildings, and they had these windows that would slide upwards, and he would be at school and he would slide the window upward, and then he'd go and sit down, and then the school bell would ring, and his border collie that was sitting in his truck bed would jump out of the truck bed, jump through the school window, and then would just be in the classroom and sleep underneath his desk. And I'm really sure that wasn't allowed. My first thoughts on that is, how dare you put a dog in the back of a truck bed? That's so irresponsible and so dangerous. Whenever I see people do that, and I live in a place where there's a lot of trucks and a lot of people who put their dogs in just the truck bed without leashes or anything like that, they just put them in there. It's so irresponsible and it's so dangerous. Like, what if you got into a car accident? What if the dog fell out of the back while you were on the road and got ran over? Or, just horror stories of dogs falling out of the truck bed or getting stolen, or like jumping out and getting lost. Like, it's just really irresponsible. Put your dog in the cab. I really wish it was against the law to leave your dog in the truck bed of your truck, because it just gives me so much anxiety. I don't know, maybe people out there don't think it's fine, Obviously people think it's fine, but it's not. It's not okay, you know. Anyway, so he would do that, and then his border collie would just be there throughout the whole day. And he said that if anyone told on him, they would get an F. So no one told on him, and he just had his dog with him all day. And that's pretty weird, now that I think about it. I also had a friend in this geometry class, and she was a riot. I really hope that she's doing well. I have no idea what happened to her after high school, but I hope she's doing really well. She was just one of those friends that you wanted to be around because you just felt so much better when she was around, you know, a really uplifting person. We had geometry together, and there was one time we were talking about tangents and cosines and a little bit of trigonometry. Oh, you might hear that truck. Vroom! Vroom, go, Mr. Truck, vroom! Anyway, I hope you could have heard that, because otherwise I feel like an idiot for going vroom at a truck. Anyways, so this friend, when we were going over like very, very basic trigonometry, she started falling asleep in her desk, and she was like right next to me, so I watched, and I like tried to like kick her awake, and her head was like lolling back, and she was like kind of snoring, and I was like trying to get her to wake up. Teacher looked over, and I kind of stopped, and then he didn't like do anything or say anything, and he went back to teaching. And I look over, and my friend's head had slumped forward, and then she slumped forward, and then she smacked her face into her desk and was still asleep, but had a nosebleed. And so there was just like this pool of blood around her face on her desk, and she was still sleeping. And I remember kicking her awake, and she jumps up and she looks around, and she looks down at her desk, and she started shouting that her brain was leaking, and the whole class like stopped, and she ran to the nurse's office. Luckily she didn't break her nose, but it was really funny to wake her up mid-dream, and she thought her brain was leaking out or exploding. That was pretty funny. Another really funny thing, well, not funny. It's kind of funny now because I have a sick sense of humor, but at the time it was really horrifying. We were walking to class, and she said, "I wonder why we close our eyes when we sneeze. Next time I sneeze, I'm not going to close my eyes." And I said, "Well, it's kind of involuntary. You're going to close your eyes regardless." She says, No. I'm going to keep one eye open when I sneeze because I want to see what happens." I was like, that doesn't sound possible, but okay, go off. And we're in class, and then I see her rearing up for a sneeze, and she puts her forefinger and her thumb over her right eye, and she pulls the bottom and top lid really, really wide, and then she sneezes, and it's so violent, and her eye kind of came out of its socket. And I know that sounds so gross. I should have put a trigger warning. Why is it that I always have to put trigger warnings in all my videos, it feels like? Why am I subject to gross stuff? Anyway, but she started shouting because her eye was kind of like, not like dangling out of its socket, but definitely not all the way in. And the teacher's like, "Oh my God, what have we done?" And he ran out to the sink. The drinking fountain that had like little paper cups on the side, and he gave her a cup, and he said, "Put this over your eye and go to the nurse." So she put a paper cup over her eye, and she's like, "Oh, this hurts so bad." And she's like, "This is why you close your eyes when you sneeze." And she had the paper cup over her eye, and she's just like wandering down the hallway and stumbling around, and oh man, I didn't see her for like 3 days after that. But then she came back, and she seemed perfectly fine. She just had like a really red eyeball for like a week. Kind of looked like she had pink eye, but she didn't, just kind of looked like it. And yeah, actually that's the only 2 funny stories I have about geometry class. Not very much else happened in that class. You know what was interesting though as well? Another high school class that I had was AP English in 11th grade, and also creative writing with like the same teacher. So it was really weird to like be in that room and then leave and then come back to that room. It was weird. But anyways, this teacher, I won't say his name because I actually remember his name, but I'm not going to say it. He would tell us that he wanted to be a folio artist, but because he couldn't find any work being a folio artist, he decided to just teach English instead. But teaching English did not stop him from practicing his folio art in class. So randomly, like really quiet, we're all doing our work, randomly he would start screeching like a monkey or like making cat sounds. It was usually monkey sounds. He made a lot of monkey sounds. And I had 2 classes with this guy. So it wasn't just like, oh, he's teasing his AP English class. No, he just is doing this because he wants to. And it's very startling when you're in a quiet room thinking hard about how to write a character for a creative writing project, and then your teacher just starts acting like a literal baboon. That was interesting. It was also interesting, he was a teacher that said something to me once that really stuck with me. I was in the library working on an art project, and this art project was the beginning of an art project that took me 5 years to complete. It was the first panel of a 10-paneled piece of work, all done with colored pencil and ink, and used pop culture imagery and juxtaposition of such things and appropriation in order to say new things about American culture. If that doesn't sound bullshitty enough. Anyway, and I was working on it, and suddenly I was surrounded by all these Chinese men in black suits, and they were all looking over my work and like speaking Chinese to each other. And I was so startled, because one, what? And two, what? And the principal was there, and then there was a translator, and the translator says, they're admiring your work. They think it's very good. And I said, oh, thank you. And I felt so awkward that I started kind of crying, which is not the right response, but I did it. And they walked away, and I wiped my tears off. And then that teacher came up to me in the library, and he says, when you get famous, make sure to tell people that I was your AP English and creative writing teacher. Like, let them know that I taught you, and come back and say hi and come to my class so I can brag about you. And I felt so overwhelmed that I started crying again. But I was a sensitive little teenager. I'm a sensitive little adult now too. So, yeah, that was really weird. I will say though, that the attention that I got in high school for starting that project was a really big influence for me to finish that project. So even though I felt really embarrassed and overwhelmed and cried, I'm also really happy that I had that interaction with people that came from a culture that was so different from my own. Even though the interaction was only like 30 seconds, I think back to it and think, wow, that's really amazing that I was able to connect with these people, these random strangers from the other side of the earth. I have no idea why they were there. They just were there. And I regret not trying to interact more. With that piece, there's a lot of things that I regret that I had done. And I think that conversation is for another day, because there's a lot that I could say about it, and it deserves its own video. But for now, I'll just have to tease y'all and say that there's something coming that's big. Oh man, isn't that just the jerkiest thing that I could do? Anyways, it is now 8:45. I think I'm gonna go for our walk, but I really just wanted to get on here and talk a little bit and share a few little funny things I was thinking about this morning, and prove to y'all that I'm not always a sad sack, that, I have happy things too. Fleeting, but they're there. And I will see you all next week with something new. Bye!